I love making side dishes in my crock pot. We are making a twice baked potato casserole. Also, there are a lot of different ways to go about this. I'm gonna show you the way that I'm doing it, but if you would like to make this even faster, so if you only have about 2.5 hours and you need to get this ready to go, you can actually bake your potatoes first, then put everything in the crock pot. I'm not gonna worry about that because I'm starting this early enough that I've got plenty of time to make it happen. So in my case, the first thing I'm gonna do is just add potatoes here into my crock pot. And you want about 3 pounds or so. It really all depends on how much you need to make. If you would like to cut this in half, you could double or triple, whatever you prefer. You guys know I say that all the time, make what you need for your family. Also, use whatever kind of potatoes you love because this would be delicious with red potatoes, russet potatoes. I've got these Yukon Gold. Now, I don't know if this is completely necessary, but we are going to add a little bit of oil. This is what I do. You don't have to do this if you don't want. And then I do like to sprinkle with a little bit of salt. We'll be adding some more salt later, but I just like the idea of cooking it in a little bit of salt. I'm gonna add the slightest touch of bone broth. You can add just about like a couple of tablespoons of water or broth, whatever you like. It just helps with the steaming function just a little bit. You don't even have to add it, but I do find that it helps them to tender up just a little bit quicker. Now, we are going to cook these for about 3 hours on high. You can do this a couple of different ways. You can pull these out and you can cube them and then put them back in here, or you can do them the way I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take my potato masher and I'm not even mashing them all the way. I just want them to be lightly mashed. Very easy to do because these have been in here for as long as they have. Okay. I'm gonna take about half of the potatoes out and just put them in this bowl because we're gonna create layers. So I'm just grabbing my spoon here. Chop that one up a little bit, didn't get all the way mashed. All right, so roughly half of the potatoes are now in this bowl. For this bottom layer here, I'm going to take some Greek yogurt. You can obviously use sour cream in place of Greek yogurt. That's totally fine. We're probably gonna end up using quite a bit of this. And let's just take some of this and top the potatoes that are in here, kind of creating another layer. You can mix it all together if you want. I'm gonna avoid the sides of the crock pot a bit just because I feel like the sour cream is probably, or the Greek yogurt, has more of a tendency to burn, but it's totally fine. Just spreading a whole layer over the top. I did not avoid the side with that spoonful. We also need to add a little bit of salt and pepper. Forgot to do that. Each layer you do wanna add a little bit of salt and pepper, just to make sure you bring out the really good flavor of those potatoes. Now, you guys know I always have pre-cooked bacon in our house because we just love having bacon ready and available. So I'm gonna take these pieces. I've got about 3 here, which is perfect. And we're going to just cut this into pieces, cut it into whatever size pieces you want. I'm gonna chop mine up decently small. This is a nice thick cut bacon, which is perfect for a recipe like this. Let's take some of that bacon and we're gonna add about half of it to this layer. So just sprinkling over the top here. I've got some, this is cheddar cheese. I've got some cheddar here. And then my mom left this here. She shredded this while she was here. And I'm pretty sure it's like a Colby or something. We're gonna use that one too. So let's just add a layer of cheese. Now I think for the next layer here, I'm gonna go ahead and add my sour cream into the potatoes and just mix it all together. There's no reason not to. If you wanna just dump it all in the crock pot and do it in layers in there, that's fine too. But this just seems convenient and easy to go ahead and mix it together while I'm here and then create another layer on top. Oh, and salt and pepper. Let me know in the comments as I'm doing this. Well, first of all, I wanna know, do you guys ever make sides in your crock pot, or do you normally think of your crock pot as a main dish way of making main dishes? And I also wanna know in the comments, what is your favorite type of potato? Do you love twice baked potatoes? Do you just love a good baked potato, mashed potatoes, roasted potatoes? What is your favorite? Potatoes are such a big hit in our house. You just really can't go wrong. Okay, let's create a layer with this. Probably a lot more casserole than my family of 4 needs, but I guess we'll just eat on it for the next couple of days. You guys know, normally when I make things, I try and cut down the recipe because we just don't need all of it. And I'm cooking, you know, several nights a week, but I didn't do that with this one. Now I'm gonna add some more cheese. And also this crock pot has been through like every stage of life with me. I think I got it either right before college or right after college. And I mean, this has been through, I'm pretty sure it was actually right before college. It's been through the single years, the college years, the early marriage years. Man, I made so many meals in the crock pot in our first couple of years of marriage because we were both working outside of the home, and we would come home to dinner every night made in the crock pot. And I'm not exaggerating when I say probably 5 times a week. Let's just add all of this cheese. So we've got our layer. Let's add the rest of the bacon onto the top. I also have a newer crock pot, but there is just something about this. The newer crock pot is programmable. It will shut off at a certain time. Nope, not this one. You got a turn dial. But there's something about this one. It's just nostalgic. It's easy to use. I love a turn dial. So we have all this in here. I'm actually gonna change it to low, put the lid on. And really what we're looking for here is the cheese to melt and everything to just work together. Everything's cooked in here now, but that's where we are. We're gonna come back in about an hour, hour and a half or so, top this with some green onion. I'll make sure the cheese is nice and melty and ready to go. Let's try the casserole. That's really good. It definitely tastes like a twice baked potato. Really, really good flavor. This would be a great Thanksgiving side dish, especially if you want to have something cooking in your crock pot. You can make even a bigger crock pot version, but then you don't even have to worry about making a potato and worrying about it being in the oven and trying to take it out in time. This would be a really good option for that, but the flavors are delicious. We are gonna make some of these sweet, tangy ranch beans. When I say ranch, I do not mean ranch as in the salad dressing. I mean ranch as in a location, but we actually are gonna add a touch of ranch because I think that that's gonna make them so delicious. Now, traditionally, I have not been a huge fan of sweet beans, like the sweet green beans and stuff, but I'm thinking that if I make them a little less sweet and more on the savory side, then I'm gonna be a fan. So I personally do not love canned green beans, so I just took some fresh green beans, I snapped them, and I cooked them for about an hour in a little bit of bone broth here in my crock pot just to kind of pre-soften them up, but you can skip that step and just use canned green beans if you want to. We are gonna add 1 can of kidney beans. I'm using the dark ones, and 1 can of navy beans to this. I am draining and rinsing both of these cans before adding them. You can also add lima beans, you could add pork and beans, whatever kind of beans you love. Now, I made up my own chili sauce, which I'll leave the recipe in the comments, but all you need to do is buy a bottle of chili sauce to add to these. Now, in addition to that, I am adding 1/3 cup of brown sugar. You can use up to 3/4 of a cup if you want to. And I'm adding a little bit of dry ranch packet powder, the dressing mix, about a half packet, just because I do feel like it's gonna make these flavors really delicious. We're gonna stir all of that together. Obviously, you guys can add other spices, add some onion powder, garlic powder, add chopped onion if you want to. Now we have plenty of time, so we're gonna put our lid on and cook this on low for 6 to 7 hours. But if you need a shorter cooking time, go high for 3 to 4 hours. Y'all, this recipe is so easy. It just sat in the crock pot all day long. I didn't have to do anything. It's just all dump everything in there and then just let it sit. It was so incredibly easy. If you need a side dish that you can dump all into a crock pot, also if you want a side dish that is packed full of protein, this is definitely the easy way to go. I do want to say we did make them a little less sweet. I like them so much better when they're not quite as sweet as maybe the traditional sweet green beans. So much better. but also I wanna mention these reheat really well. So if you have something where you wanna make a bunch of them so that you can make it last throughout the week, this is a great reheat option. All right, to start this off, we are going to add 1 pound of pasta to the crock pot. And I'm just changing it up a little bit and using a different noodle. I like to do that occasionally, just, you know, spice it up a little. I'm also gonna add about 4 tablespoons of butter to the pasta. Just take it, cut it up and put it right in there. And then we have an 8-ounce block of cream cheese. You can use up to 8 ounces, but we are only gonna use 4. That is just our preference for this one. One thing I like about this recipe is that it only takes 2 hours. So you don't have to start this one earlier in the morning. You can start this one when you get home from work or something like that, and then it'll be ready to go for dinner time. We do need to add some salt. Just like when you cook pasta when you boil it on the stovetop, you wanna make sure that it has salt in that water. Otherwise you aren't gonna get any flavor on your pasta. So I'm adding about 2 teaspoons of salt, and I'm adding a little bit of pepper. Now for our liquid, I'm adding 3 cups of whole milk. I mean, I guess you can use whatever kind of milk you want. We just always have whole milk. And then I'm gonna add some heavy cream, about 1 cup of heavy cream. I have also made this type of mac and cheese, a crock pot mac and cheese, using evaporated milk before as well. So you can use, you change it up. Use whatever works for you and your family. Now, we're gonna put a lid on, and this is going to cook for 1.5 hours on low until the pasta is a little bit chewy, and then we'll add in our other ingredients. We are almost at the 1.5 hour mark with the macaroni. I guess it's not really macaroni, it's pasta and cheese, okay? That's what we're calling it. I need to go ahead and get some cheese grated. So I have some cheese here. We overall need about 2 cups for this. Actually, we need about 3 because you're gonna add another kind of cheese too. But this is cheddar. You can use a pepper jack. You can use whatever kind of cheese you want as the secondary cheese. But you need about 2 cups of the cheddar and another cup of a different kind of cheese. I'm probably gonna go with Parmesan for my other one. This might be a little more than 2 cups. So I'll probably just add 1/2 cup of the other cheese. All right, at this point, the noodles are not quite done, but they're very close. So we're just gonna stir this, let it all come together, and I'm gonna put in all of that cheese and stir it around. Let's do a little bit at a time though, just to make sure that we get it incorporated. I feel like this is gonna be a very cheesy mac and cheese, which I don't hate, but sometimes I want actually a little less cheese. I don't know, we're pasta fans, so I'm never against the very pasta-y mac and cheese. Okay, and let's add more. I do think that this would be really good with a pepper jack, but I love spice, you guys know that. I'm gonna let this cook for about 15 to 20 more minutes. I'm gonna put the lid on, but as you can see, I've offset it a little bit just so that some of that liquid can evaporate. The flavor is on point. I think you need to cook the noodles for 2 hours, not 1.5 hours. And my other suggestion would be only 2 cups of milk instead of 3 cups of milk. I don't think it needs that much liquid, especially if you cook the noodles just a hair longer. But the flavor of this is really good. And I think that Parmesan actually added just that hint of sharpness, I guess, that Parmesan offers, that I really, really like. This was so easy to put together. You guys know, crock pot, doesn't matter. Crock pot sides, love them. I'm gonna put the lid on.
It's on 3, but it may need to go down a little more.
You think you're so funny. We are making a sweet potato casserole in the crock pot. So easy, so delicious. Y'all are gonna love this one as much as we do. I went ahead and peeled some sweet potatoes, and then I have them over here on my cutting board, and we're gonna dice these up. You can make them however big or small you want. It does not matter because these are going to get smashed. Okay, so we're gonna smash these up just like you would do mashed potatoes, mash them, smash them, whatever you wanna call it, just like you would do mashed potatoes. So we're dicing them up and then we're gonna add these to our crock pot. I don't think I mentioned it, but I am cutting this recipe in half. I'm using my smaller crock pot. I do feel like if I was using the larger crock pot, it would be fine to do the full recipe, but we just don't need all that. So we're gonna cut this in half. So I have 2 pounds of potatoes cubed or diced here in my crock pot. We're gonna add about a 1/4 cup of melted butter. I'm going a little less than a 1/4 cup, but you can do however much you want to do. Let's add about a 1/4 cup of packed brown sugar. And I'm going about an 1/8 cup, maybe a little more than that, of some maple syrup. We love to add cinnamon, nutmeg, those kind of flavors. You add whatever you want. For the cinnamon, we're going about a half to up to a teaspoon, really, just depending on how much you love that flavor. But for the nutmeg, doing more like a 1/4 teaspoon to a 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. Now, this is completely optional, but whenever we make sweet potato casserole, we substitute vanilla extract and we use almond extract instead. Feel free to use whatever it is that you love. I'm gonna add around a teaspoon of almond extract. If you don't like almond extract, just go for the vanilla. And then on top of that, we're gonna add just under a 1/2 cup of water. This is just gonna help those potatoes steam up and cook really well. So we're gonna be turning our crock pot on to high and cook it for about 2 to 3 hours on high until those potatoes are really fork tender so that we can mash them. All right, I have my potato masher here. These are mashing so easily. So we're just going to make sure you can mash them as much or as little as you want. Obviously, they don't have to be completely mashed, but let me tell you, it's gonna happen real easily. It smells so good. I was actually in the other room working and thinking, what smells so good in our house? Completely forgetting that I had this in the crock pot. For the amount that I am making, I'm gonna add about a 1/3-ish of a cup of brown sugar. And this is probably gonna finish this off. Of course it is, because I ordered groceries today and I didn't even look at the brown sugar. So it didn't finish it off, we're okay. Now for the flour, we're gonna use about a 1/4 cup. I'm just gonna stick with the same measuring cup. You can obviously use an actual 1/4 cup, but I'm gonna stick with this one and just guesstimate and make a mess. Okay, let's just start to mix this together. This is 3 tablespoons right here of melted butter. We're gonna add this in and just kind of create coarse crumbs. I may have melted it a little too long. Okay, that's pretty good. Now I'm gonna add in pecans, but this is a completely optional ingredient. So if you're not a fan of nuts, just skip this. Now these are pecan halves. I do wanna break them up a little bit into more like pieces, but it's up to you. You don't have to do that. Obviously you can put them in a little baggie and take your meat mallet and crush them that way. Totally up to you how you wanna do this. While I'm doing this, I wanna know if you pronounce it pecan or pecan. Let me know in the comments. Okay, I might add a little more onto the top. Now we just need to take our mixture and we're gonna just sprinkle over the top. You can, pour it out and kind of pat it down if you want. Do it however you're most comfortable. I feel like this looks pretty if you add some of the halves in here as well. We are going to cook this for an additional 2 hours and it's gonna cook on high. Now, one little trick that I learned the last time I made a crock pot recipe that had a similar type of topping is in the last 30 minutes or so, I took the lid off and left it off, but still kept the crock pot on. And the topping got crispy. So we might try that with this. I'll test it in 2 hours, still on high. We'll see how it is in 2 hours, but I might end up taking the lid off just to see if we can get like a really nice crust on the top. I did take the lid off of this and the lid has been off for about an hour and it's gotten a little bit hard on the top, which is what I wanted. I wanted kind of like a crust to form, which is perfect. Also, I do not love this time of year. It's the dark so early. I love the light, I love the sunshine, not a fan, But I was actually reading today, somebody was saying they love this time of year because it's light out when they go to work and they prefer it to get dark earlier. Now, my kids are young and they play outside every single day. So that's probably why I don't prefer this time, because then, you know, at basically 5:30, they're having to come inside because it's dark out. Let me know in the comments, are you a fan of the daylight savings time? Which one do you prefer? I don't know what this one is called. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is the fall back and the other one is the spring forward. Which one do you like? Let's give this a try. It looks delicious. Let's give this a taste. Just see if it's as good as the regular one, the one in the 9x13 dish. Oh, it is as good. It is very good. That is very good. The brown sugar crust that you get on the top is perfect. I love the hint of almond in the flavors there. The sweet potatoes are cooked perfectly. Y'all, this was so easy to make, and you could just have it sitting there all day long. It's one less thing that you have to worry about on Thanksgiving. So good. Our verse today comes from Colossians 4:5. Be wise in the way you act toward outsiders. Make the most of every opportunity. I hope you guys enjoyed these crock pot sides that you can use for Thanksgiving. Honestly, they're good for any time of the year, not just Thanksgiving, but stay tuned because I've got some more side dish ideas coming for you for Thanksgiving. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned this week for more.